Hello and welcome to the Indie Alternative Podcast. It's me, Chris. On this episode, I'm delighted to be joined by Charlotte Cooper of The Subways. Charlotte talked a bit about the recording of the new album in lockdown and the new festival and tour dates coming up in Germany. Also, there's a little bit of a bass rig geek out at the end, which was great fun. Before we hit the interview, here's a quick reminder of all the ways you can support the podcast. The links to social media are in the show notes. Also, if you want to leave a review and rate the podcast, that would be great. And lastly, if you want to buy me a virtual coffee to say thank you and support the podcast financially, the links to that page is also in the show notes. Well, anyway, that's it for the waffle. Here's Charlotte. Welcome to the podcast, Charlotte Cooper. How are you?
I'm very good, thank you. Thank you very much for having me. How are you doing?
I'm all right, yes. We were just talking about kids off mic and the fact that they're going down. They've gone down or they're going down. And so far, it's peaceful. But you've got a similar situation, but yours are younger, aren't they?
Mine are younger, but my husband's home tonight, so he has both monitors and he will deal with any wake up.
He's got the stick and the threat of the cupboard.
Yeah.
Of course, that's not what we would do, obviously. Whereabouts are you?
I live in Sheffield now. I've been here about, I think 11 years now, something like that.
Yeah. And so what's life like in Sheffield compared to where you were? Sort of Welwyn Garden City is kind of where you kind of started out.
Yeah. So the band was from Welwyn Garden City, and sort of the Hertford, all of us from Hertfordshire, Essex kind of area. So yeah, Sheffield's quite different to that, I guess. But I do really, really love living here. Yeah, so like everything you could want from big city, but also just a few miles away from incredible countryside. It's kind of the best of both, really. That's what we love about it.
And you've got some great venues out in Sheffield as well. The Lead Mill was an iconic venue.
Yeah, still, Leadmill is still, if you want to go somewhere on a Friday night, that's where you go.
so they do still do like the indie disco? Yeah,
they still have the indie disco going, yeah.
So I saw Shed 7 and one years and years ago, probably in the mid to late 90s there, and like a very good indie disco ensued, and it was one of the best nights I think I've ever had. Great venue.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, years ago. So you've kind of, I guess things are starting to get back to normal now that the world's kind of unlocking, although we've got other challenges at the moment. But I guess you're looking forward to getting back on the road. You've got some stuff coming up, specifically in Germany. What's that going to be like for you, do you think? Are you looking forward to it?
Yeah, for sure. Hopefully, I think things still feel very uncertain. I think the events of the past couple of weeks have thrown, as you said, thrown a whole other load of uncertainties at things. But I think we're preparing as if stuff is going to go ahead. So hopefully should be going to Germany in a couple of weeks' time for, I think it's a festival that's also a TV show. I think for us it's basically going to feel like a gig with cameras. So
okay,
quite cool. And then we have full German tour in May, and then festivals are starting to come in. Although festival season this year is still a little bit strange because we're still in kind of sort of rollovers, I guess, from either 2020 or 2021. So things that didn't happen but already have their lineups in place, if you see what I mean.
Yeah.
So I guess a more normal festival season will hopefully be like 2023. But we have some stuff coming in still for this year. So yeah, so it should be good. And then gearing up for album release in September, and then seeing where we go with that.
Oh, good. We'll get to that later. But with the festival circuit, you're kind of a well-established festival kind of seasoned band now, aren't you? You're kind of where you cut your teeth, really, straight away in sort of Glastonbury.
I guess we like to think so. We love festivals, and it's always been really, really important part of our year. Just trying to play as many as possible all across Europe. So it's a really big thing for us. We really love that sort of mid-afternoon slot. Mid-afternoon slot, or like maybe early-ish on like the first day of a festival. That's what we seem to get booked for, and what we really enjoy to play. So really, really missed it the last few years. So it'd be amazing to get back to it.
And that kind of early connection that you have with Glastonbury and the Evers family. How did that come about? I mean, if you can remember that far back.
Yes, it's a long time ago now.
Just to remind, I mean, I guess people would be aware of the kind of Subway story, I guess, because obviously you were a very young band and you kind of broke the scene as being, championed by Peel, and then obviously the Glastonbury connection. But I mean, talk a bit about how it felt for you at the time, and I'm guessing it was exciting. That's a given. But how quickly did things start to happen for you?
So it was. I mean, when things started to happen, it was all pretty wild, really. Because before that, like you said, we were super young. We were all still at school, and we're making demos in Billy's parents' house. He had like this little recording machine in the kitchen. There's a little hatch through to the living room, and we'd record there. I think now, like, God knows what their neighbours thought, because it was not quiet, and it was a terraced house. So But yes, we used to make demos there. We'd send them off to as many different venues as we could find. We'd just Google all the venues we could possibly get to in an evening and get back again, and just sent loads and loads of demos out, and just tried to play as many gigs as possible. And then we saw, I think Billy was recording a band, and they said that they were going to send their demo to Michael Eavis because he was doing this Glastonbury competition. So we thought we'd have a go at that as well. So I sent our demo off and had to go down, and out of all the demos, they picked a few bands to go and play like a final down in Pilton. So we went and played that, somehow won, still don't know how. And then we were playing on the other stage. And we were like, this is just wild.
Yeah. And technically, you couldn't even drink to celebrate.
Oh, yeah, no, I think, there's so many venues where, like, we go back as, like, 18. I remember having Josh's birthday at a venue, his 18th birthday. They're like, you played here for, like, 3 years.
It's funny we talked about that. I mentioned the DIY approach. It sounds ridiculous but that is actually it wasn't DIY. That's just how you did things back then. It sounds stupid, but I did the same in when we did our first demos and first sort of EPs and things. You just used to get a stack of jiffy bags from the post office, and you go online on the internet in your dial-up and just write down loads of addresses and send them all off. That's just how it used to work, isn't it? It's just
exactly it.
No MP3s.
No like social media or anything like that. Just we had like a forum on our website. That's how people that's how sort of we started getting a bit of a fan base, was we had a forum. And the cool thing about that is a lot of them are still like in touch, which I think is really nice. And whenever we play in London, they all get together, which I think is lovely.
If we could go back a bit further, maybe to your influences, obviously you started playing the bass at a young age, and you're already kind of playing major stages. But do you remember what your kind of first kind of musical influences were, and who you were looking at as inspiration on stage?
So when I first started playing, I was really into Hole and Ash, Garbage, PJ Harvey, the Pixies. Those were bands that just sort of really influential for me at the time. And I guess you can probably see why, like really incredible women, really talented musicians that kind of were people that I really, really looked up to.
And that stage presence that you kind of have, because there's definitely an energy that you bring to every gig. And I guess, is there ever a time when you don't feel like bringing it? But
I get sometimes you're tired before you go on, but like as soon as you get into it, then it just comes back. Although like I definitely find as I'm getting older, one-off gigs are getting harder. So once you're on tour, you're kind of fine because you get into a roll of it and you keep going. But it's the one-off gigs which are a killer now. If we do like one show, I'll be broken for like a week.
Your knees aren't quite what they used to be. So is there anything you do? I mean, I know it might sound silly, but is there anything you do to prepare yourself for that kind of that energy? And like, is there any routine, any stretches, warm-ups, or kind of energy drinks that you have to do?
So I've always been like really bad at that and never really done anything. But I will say now I've started doing. I've always like run and done sort of fitness stuff, but I have started doing yoga now because I'm like, come on, I cannot be like this busted at 35. There's got to be more life in me. So I started doing yoga to like kind of just look after myself a little bit better, because I cannot fling myself around like I was when I was 18 and expect myself to just bounce back anymore.
But 16 years of, or it was 16 years of the Young for Eternity album, which seems mind-boggling.
Yeah.
When you did a kind of tour, did you do a tour for that last, an anniversary tour? Did you have one lined up for that?
Yeah, we did. We eventually we started it in March 2020. So I'm sure you can guess what happened to it. We did three shows. So we started, and then we finally finished in September last year. So September 2021, we finished the last. I think there was 9 shows total. So we did the final 6 in September. Finally got it done.
What's it like playing the album? I guess you're still obviously playing songs from the album live, but that album launched you. But how does it feel playing that album in its entirety and having that kind of anniversary tour?
It was really fun because there's a few songs on that album which we never really used to play live back when the album was released. There's a couple of like the slower sort of songs which we didn't have time for that when we were 18. We just wanted to rock out and go nuts and didn't want to slow down at all. So it was kind of nice to revisit those songs and work out a way to play them live and to play the album in full from start to finish is always is quite a different thing because you never do that. You always kind of switch things up, or there's other songs you need to fit in. So it was really, really special, and it's just so amazing to see like what that album means to people, and people singing every word, and everyone's kind of there has got a story about what they remember about that time. So it was a really special thing to do.
I think when you first came out, the appeal of you was that because you were so young, that it felt achievable. And I've said this before with other guests where, I spoke to Rick from Ash, and we talked about, when you're a young musician and you're practicing in your bedroom and you're using a 4-track for the first time, you see other bands of the same age or similar age making it and achieving it through just hard work, and just some of it's down to being in the right place at the right time, but it always sort of gave you a lot of hope. And I think that's what the Subways did for a lot of musicians when you first came out, is that, well, look, these guys can do it if we just need to put in the graft, and it is achievable.
That's really cool to hear. I really hope that's I guess that's what we were to people, that we made it seem possible. That's cool to hear.
Rock and Roll Queen is kind of, it's like its own continent now, that song. It's only when I kind of, when we first sort of started communicating and we agreed to sort of kindly to come and talk to me, that I realised how often I heard it in unusual places. And, as far as just, it's still played quite regularly on the radio. You hear it on the TV, even as, they use it in background tracks for TV programs and stuff. It's still out there, and you just don't realise how popular that song was, and how raw and great it was. I mean, how does it feel to you to have a song that has legacy, if you know what I mean?
Well, that song's taken us around the world, really. I think that's a lot of people's introduction to us. So forever grateful to everything it did. And I think, at the time when, so we've never really been a band that's had a huge amount of sort of commercial radio play, I guess, or kind of got to kind of had people access our music in a traditional sense. So having that song on like TV shows and films, and even adverts, has been a really great way for people to discover us. So that's been really, really useful. I know that every time that like the OC is rerun, we get like a whole people into us.
Yeah. How did that come about? I mean, that must have been really cool.
Oh yeah, that was super cool. I mean, I think that's one of the coolest things I've ever done. It's just mad, isn't it? Like you just go to LA and do like this really cool teenage, like, kind of iconic TV show at the time. Really, it was like everybody. I loved it. I was well starstruck. I can't believe we're gonna like go and meet Summer.
It was a big show. It was like Dawson's Creek level, wasn't it? That,
it was kind of the after Dawson's Creek, wasn't it? It was like the next sort of teen thing, I guess.
And they had a really good title song. I can't remember who did what was the band who did the California
Phantom Planet.
That's the one.
Was it them?
Yeah. Because that was a big hit for them. And then you had, I remember Modest Mouse being on there, and a couple of, they used to always have these bands playing in the background, looking cool. And you got the gig.
There's really good legacy of bands that had already played. So we were super chuffed that they wanted us as well.
So is it just a case of someone in the States calling someone's agents talking to agents? I'm guessing. Did you have?
I feel like I want to ask my manager this question because I can't remember. Why did they choose us? I don't know.
But so in lockdown, bands, I guess, were finding time to write and stuff. And were you finding it a different challenge, or to sort of write together and play together, or were you using kind of the technology that everyone seemed to embrace, which was sending files to each other and listening to tracks that way? I mean, what were you doing to keep busy? Because I know you did have a single out Fight, which was kind of really topical and capturing a lot of how I think people were feeling at the time. That kind of process of writing that song and writing in general over the last couple of years, what's it been like for you?
I think it's been really cool, actually. And it's just been totally different. But having it different and the challenges that came with that was actually quite interesting to do. Kind of on like album 5, just being pushed to do something a little bit different. Because we were like halfway through an album, halfway through writing it, halfway through recording it. And so really quite itching to keep going. We just started the Young for Eternity tour, but after that, the plan was to finish recording the album and then release it and kind of do, go on tour and stuff. So to have that, to not be able to do it, because I live in Sheffield, but Billy still lives in Hertfordshire, and Josh was in France. So we're all like not together, obviously. So we did do the whole upload to Dropbox and everyone send files around, that type of thing. I made my bedroom like a mini studio, so found a way to record bass quite primitively and send it to Billy, who polished it up and made it sound a lot bigger than it was. And then I kind of found a way to record vocals as well. Made like a mini vocal booth out of blankets. Kind of draped over the corner in my bedroom, and we made it work. Just sent endless things to Billy, but I think because he was already producing the album, so that would have struggled if we were trying to do it with somebody else producing it. I think it worked because Billy could still have access, after a certain point when you're allowed to kind of go to places a little bit more again. He was able to go to his studio. He's the only one in his studio anyway, so it was fine.
Yeah.
He was able to go there and kind of intercept all these things coming backwards and forwards. But I think it kind of it's going to make it, a quite a unique album for us, because there was just loads of time, wasn't there? So why don't we just time to play around with things and time to try new things, and I think that shaped the album.
Has Billy always been sort of very hands-on in terms of the tech and recording and sort of engineering process?
Yeah, definitely. So as we were talking about earlier, he used to record our very first demos. He was recording for other bands around that time as well. And then first 3 albums, really lucky to work with amazing producers who he of course, kind of took a lot from and was very much by their side watching everything it was doing, and they were kind of passing things on to him. And then the 4th album was the first one that he produced and mixed himself, and then this 5th album he's produced it again.
So you've been sat on those songs for quite a while then, really, and preparing for them to be released.
Yeah, long time. It feels like a long time we've worked on this album now, because the last one was 2015. Billy did then he went to university for 3 years. So it was always kind of planned to have a bit of a break, but we were still meeting and sort of start some of these songs. The early parts of them have been around for that long, because we said we were going to stop, and we never did. We still did festivals every summer, and we still were writing, and kind of it didn't stop. It was never going to stop. So it is kind of quite a mixture, and then some of the songs have completely only come about since lockdown. So it's a bit of a mixture.
So is it tempting though to keep going back and just taking another look at stuff, or have you been quite strict with yourselves and say, right, no, it's done, it's in the can, let's leave it? Because I suppose if you're sat and waiting because of lockdown and being, you kind of want to practice them as well, don't you? And with a live audience to see which ones go down well and Has it been quite tempting to tweak with stuff?
I think it has been in the past. I think so. This time we got Billy wanted somebody else to mix it. I think because he kept just going back, and because he was able to. The fourth album, I think he just kept going in and sort of remixing things. I think he really felt like he wanted to just focus on the production and getting kind of everything sounding great and the songs as he wanted, and then to pass it on to somebody else to mix and kind of get their sort of input in that, I guess. And it was Adrian Bushby, who's had a really great, like, incredible career. So really, lucky that he said he would do it for us.
So you'll be playing these songs for the first time in the next sort of few weeks, then?
Yeah. So we're doing. We're going to play a few of the rockier ones in a couple of weeks' time, and then there's a couple of songs which are a bit more synth based, which is totally different, completely out of our comfort zone. But we're going to try a couple of those in May, and then kind of the festivals over the summer as well, hopefully. See how it goes.
Yes. Is the album quite diverse then, would you say? Have you tried different things because you've been able to?
Yeah, I think just because we've been able to, like just this time, so it's like, let's stick a synth on that. I'm not going to play a bass on that. I'm going to play synth instead. But not really thinking about playing it live, just just thinking about it in the moment. And then now, like, oh no, we need to get my synth playing up, which. It's not, I'm definitely a bass player. Let's just say that. But I've been practicing loads.
That's like another piece of kit to bring on the road with you, because you're kind of, when you're a 3-piece, it's quite a lean outfit, isn't it? You don't have to worry too much about stuff. But now you've got a keyboard.
Now we've got other stuff to bring too. Yeah.
But you've got a new drummer too.
Yeah, we have Camille with us now, and she's really cool. We've done a few shows with her. So we did the first show she did with the Young for Eternity ones in September, but looking forward to playing more of a kind of like a regular show, I guess, with her now, and looking forward to taking her into Europe and doing some festivals with her as well.
So did you guys put an ad in the Melody Maker to get a new drummer? What was the process?
So I think Billy. So Billy's wife works in radio, and she'd heard. So Camille's in a band called the Ramonas, who they're in a Ramones covers band, but they also do their own songs as well. And she told Billy that Camille's like amazing, and I think Billy just sent her a message and just said, like, do you fancy it? And she's like, yeah, right. That's kind of it, really, I think. And then we did a rehearsal together, and she just slotted in straight away. She's really, really talented drummer, really cool, can basically play anything. But I think that's really important. But I think also what's really important is kind of fitting in and with, kind of being able to have a nice time on tour together as well. And she's dead cool as well as being really talented.
Yeah. Half the battle is getting someone that's kind of just easy, isn't it? Really, and on board with kind of what you want. Right, I'll let you go in a minute, but one last question, which I wish I'd asked all the guests, because I always forget. But your rig and your kind of your gear, has it changed much over the years, or have you kind of stuck to the to the beloved? Is it a jazz?
I did used to have a jazz bass in the early days, but I'm laughing because I just sort of feel like I dropped on like the perfect setup, and I've had the same thing for at least since I got my first I call it bass number one in 2006, and then I kind of needed to get a spare. So I got an exact replica of it. So I was like, it's just the best bass. Why would I get anything different?
Yeah.
And then like Ampeg 8x10 and SVT2 Pro, and then I have a Boss bass distortion, and that is just like, it's just all the rock bass dreams for me. Although on this new album, of course, now there's the synth element, and I branched out. I got a new pedal. I got a bass chorus, which I really liked for the kind of sort of more melodic sort of bass lines in verses. So I might bring that on tour as well. That'll be exciting to have 2 pedals on my pedal board.
2 pedals on your board. You're going to have to put another, the bit of 2x4 wood. You're just going to get bigger. Yeah. So the rigs remained the same.
I'm just really happy with. I think because being in a 3-piece, you kind of have to. It's quite a big hole you have to fill, I guess. Yeah, the bass, like not a hole, but like I guess every instrument kind of has to really be quite solid. So I think I just found this setup, and I have a Lachlan bass, and I think that's part of it. It's just a really amazing sounding bass, and I call it bass number 1 because I hardly ever use a spare because I just had this romantic idea of this bass number 1 doing everything with me for forever, and just like however many years I've tried. I was like, in like 40 years time, but probably I'll be dead by then. It's like 20 years time, it'll just be like this base of memories. Like
you have to get buried with it.
Yeah.
How often did you change your strings? This is the big bass question, and I've never had a great answer because I don't think I've changed mine for about 3 years.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Never.
Good.
I hate changing my strings because they're all like twangy.
Yeah.
But just basically when our front of house engineer is like, I can't really hear the notes anymore, so we're gonna have to change those strings.
Have you ever boiled the strings?
Oh no, I've never heard about that.
Yeah, but bass players, some swear by it. It's just instead of buying new ones, just boil them in a pan on the stove, and apparently it just cleans them, and you get a bit of the the vibe back, if you like, without having to change them. I try that. Just try it. Maybe with the spare bass. Maybe with bass number 2.
With bass number 2.
Anyway, this is going into kind of bass podcast area. This should be. But anyway, it's been amazing to speak to you, Charlotte. Thanks so much for talking to me about everything, and really looking forward to the new album. When is it penned for release?
So we hope it should be September. We were hoping for May, but then the global vinyl production shortage, which has impacted a load of bands. So basically, it just takes months and months and months to get vinyls made. So it should be September now. We've got all the artwork sorted, and I think it's actually been put in. So I think we haven't got a date or anything, but it should be September.
Okay. Yeah. Fingers crossed for everything then, Charlotte, and good luck with the Germany dates and the festival, and hopefully I'll get to see you this year somewhere live if I'm allowed.
Yeah, that'd be cool. It'd be good to see you.
All right. Thanks again, Charlotte.
Brilliant. Thanks so much for having me. It's been nice to talk.